Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Real Estate Investor Pro Membership Training webinar. My name is Dennis Wong. I'm a portfolio manager here at Real Estate Investor. I hope you all had a great Easter break, and thank you very much for taking the time to join me for the next hour or so, where I'm going to take you through the Pro Membership tools. So look, thank you so much. We've got a big audience on tonight. Your microphones are muted, so if you do have any questions at all, please feel free to just type that into the questions section on that control panel there, and I'll have plenty of time to go through all your questions at the end. So tonight's webinar, hopefully for those that have just recently joined Real Estate Investor, welcome along. Hopefully you've watched a couple of videos already, but if not, tonight will be a live demonstration on how to utilize our core tools to help you find investment properties in any market, and how to evaluate whether the numbers stack up, and what sort of tools you can use to help assist with that. So just some admin, a couple of admin things. If you are running any programs in the background, if you're downloading anything, running programs like Dropbox where it's taking up some download or upload space, please, I'd recommend that you just pause that for the next hour or so. That will definitely help with your internet speed, and you're going to get a better quality audio and going to get a better experience during tonight's webinar. So that's me. You probably, for those that have been using Real Estate Investor for a while, you probably tuned into one of my webinars in the past. I'm a property investor myself. I've been investing a little over 10 years now. I've been with Real Estate Investor for 3 years now, and I currently support over 500 members. I've got a combination of cash flow, and I've done some renovations myself. So just to get an idea, I know there's a fair, a fair few number of new Real Estate Investor members that have tuned into us, but I'm sure some of them probably aren't new investors. Just to get an idea on the audience tonight, I'm just going to launch a quick poll just to give me an idea on who's on tonight. That might help me tailor the content slightly as well. So I'm just going to launch that on screen, and if you can just click how many properties you currently own, including your own home if you're living in your home. That will just give you an idea on sort of how many people are tuning in tonight have gone through a conveyancing or a property purchase process, and you may, obviously, I might tailor some of the terminology a little bit to suit. So a little bit over 70% have voted, so thank you very much for your participation. I'll just leave it open for a couple of more seconds, and then I'll close that off. I'll share the numbers with the audience tonight as well, just to give you an idea of where you are at and where you fit in with other members that are online tonight. So I'll close that off in 5 seconds, guys. All right, fantastic. So I'll close that off and I'll share that. Fantastic. So if we have a look, we've got 11% with 0 properties. So welcome along, guys, and hopefully this next hour or so you're really going to get a lot of great content. It's going to really help you focus on the numbers, try and take any emotion out of your first investment purchase, and really allow you to grow your portfolio and treat it like a business, and be able to buy effectively and grow it long term. We've got 24% with 1 property, 35% with 2 to 3, and 30% with 4 or more. So congratulations, guys. You're in that very small percentage of the Australian investor population where you get to that bracket. So congratulations, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up some extra tips through tonight's session as well. I've just got a quick question here. If you want to ask any questions at all, guys, just on your GoToWebinar panel, there'll be a question tab there. So just click on that, open it up, and just type in your question there, and I'll receive that, and I'll have plenty of time to go through that. All right, so let me hide that off, and let's keep going. All right, so like I said, it's going to be a live training session tonight, so I'm going to take you through, just especially that we've got a fair few new members online. I'm going to really focus on investor search tonight, really show you how you can use this part of our program to find investment properties quickly. Investor search, if you're not aware, it's really a one-stop shop where we tap into around 40 property portals across Australia. So we'll look at sites like Domain, Ray White, All Homes, realestate.com, other sites like eBay and Gumtree where properties are listed, and we bring them all through to the one platform. And so it saves you time having to look at multiple sites. As you can appreciate, sellers don't always advertise on every site. It can be a costly exercise for some, so we bring them all through into the one tool. Once you've found the property, or perhaps you've already got property and you want to get an idea on what it's worth now, that's where my value and my research comes in. So we partner with Price Finder, and they're a property data company, and this gives you access to be able to run desktop valuation estimates, look at past sales history, listing history. Some states provide land valuation, owner name data, comparable sales. This really allows you to work out what are you paying, is this property asking too much? You know, there's that saying where you can purchase a discounted property, but you can actually still pay too much for it. And this is where you can really understand, is that going to be the case? If I have time, I'll touch on Property Analyzer as well. That's going to be great if you're looking at buying and holding property long term. This really allows you to crunch the numbers, really understand the equity position and cash flow position of a potential property that you're going to be looking at purchasing. All right, so I'm going to switch across now. So just bear with me while I switch from my PowerPoint presentation, and I'll bring up our site. All right. So let's get started. So, sometimes, the hardest thing is where to start. What suburbs are great? What property should I buy? And especially for those that have zero properties, this is going to be one of your largest investments and largest expense and you don't want to get it wrong. Because if you buy the wrong property, if you spend too much, it can really set you back a number of years, not just financially, but time. Because if you overpay on a property, then the value of the property can drop or stay stagnant for a very long period of time, and it doesn't allow you to then use any surplus equity for you to then purchase another property within the next couple of years. So I don't know whether those people that have one investment property, maybe that's one of those challenges that you face, is that you just pay too much originally, and now you're just stuck and you can't tap into any surplus equity. So I can show you how you can use our tools to really understand the numbers to avoid that from happening. All right, so let's click into Investor Search, and once this loads up, you can basically control what you want to see. Now, for those that are looking at cash flow properties, like you're looking at buying and holding long term, one of the things that I would suggest you set up first is your My Default profile. Now, if you haven't done so already, or perhaps you already started searching and you haven't utilized this feature, if you click on My Default profile, this actually allows you to set up your financial criteria. And I'll show you where this data is used in a couple of minutes time. But once you set this up, then for every property that comes up in your results list, you can quickly just get a snapshot to see what that property would look like from a cash flow and capital growth point of view if you ended up purchasing it. So you set up things like your loan type. Are you looking at principal and interest or interest only? What's your interest rate that you've been pre-approved of? Your deposit, your loan costs, things from solicitors' fees, valuation fees, loan costs, all that sort of thing you can put in. Market factors, so CPI or inflation, you can get that from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. I think at the moment it's around 1.5%. Capital growth. Now, obviously, it's going to be different for every different type of property out there in the market for every different suburb. So I generally recommend that you just use a conservative figure, and then if you do find a property that you want to analyze in more detail, you can always update the capital growth figure based on that market later on. Entity, so whether you're purchasing the property under your own name or under a trust or a company, you can set this up in here, and then you've got property expenses in here as well. So you can either enter that as a dollar value or a percentage of the property purchase price. Again, I would use worst case scenario figures because if the cash flow still looks good, where you've overestimated, you put some fat into the values here, then when you obviously go to analyze it in more detail and update it with actual figures, your cash flow should look a lot better. So once you've done that, just save your default profile, and that information will then be used in the snapshots, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes' time. So with Investor Search, guys, what I generally recommend, especially if you're starting out, less is more. Start off with less criteria, and that way you get more results that come back, and then you can add in more filters to refine your results. So some of the most common questions that I get from new members is that they get 0 results. And that's because they actually put in too much criteria. A classic example is I want to find something that I can renovate. So they would select the renovation keyword strategy. They will put in obviously something like a house. They want to find something at least 20% or more below the median listing price, but they want good rental yield as well. So they'll say, I want something with minimum, say, 6% yield. And then they say that they get 0 results back. So the reason why that is because usually if you're wanting to find something that you want to renovate, they're not going to be attracting that high property yield. That's the end goal, is to renovate something that's been run down or that has had no love for a number of years, to renovate it, get it modernized, get it a good uplift, and then you can bring that property yield up. So it's just putting in too many filters. So less is more. Now, some of the key things that I can point out is from a searching point of view, we've got the ability for you to expand and the more location options, and you can actually search by radius. So you don't have to just search by a suburb. So obviously you can just key in suburbs and they'll add them to the top of the screen. Okay, you can add as many as you like, or you can search, like I said, by a radius. So you can click on the location advanced, change it to search radius, and you can say, well, look, show me any property that falls in within a 30-kilometre maximum distance of postcode, say Melbourne's postcode of 3000. Okay, if you're not sure of the postcode, you can click on postcode search. That will actually link you through to the Australian Post website. A great system here that they've got where you can just simply start typing in a suburb, and it will then give you what the postcode is. So quite an easy site to use. All right, put in a price range. So you can put in your maximum. So if your maximum, say 500,000, I always recommend that you go to the next tier up, go to 550, because there could be a property that's listed at 510,000. And as we know, sellers generally won't list their property at market value. They'll price it a little bit higher, or they might have lived there for 30 years and they've got an emotional attachment to it. They think it's worth more than what it really is. So you don't want to miss out on that $510,000 listed price where there's the opportunity for you to negotiate and you might be able to get it under your actual budget. So I'm just going to say 900,000 in this case. I'm doing a search in Melbourne. Obviously, price is a little bit higher. Now, if you want to exclude any properties that have no price, and you'll find that there's a lot more listings in Sydney and Melbourne that don't have a price because they generally go to auction. So with those listings, they will come back as a NA or not available. Or sometimes agents won't disclose a price. They'll say contact me for price, or they'll say negotiable. So if you want to exclude any of those listings, just set the price range minimum to $1. So what that means is it must have a price before it to actually come back in the results. So I'm just going to leave that blank as all, just to see what comes back, following my philosophy of less is more. Let's keep going down. So we're doing a renovation as an example here, and the percentage of suburb median. So this is a really, really great filter. This is going to save you a lot of time. There's no point trying to find a property that you can renovate just for the sake of it, because if it's priced at the median or over the median price and the seller's not willing to drop, then you're potentially going to overcapitalize. What you want to do is find something as below as the median as possible, because you want to be able to then spend a bit of money, like $20,000, $20,000, depending on the type of renovation, get a good uplift, and potentially $60,000, $70,000 equity uplift. That's where ultimately what you want to do, and take it to the median, and obviously, if possible, above the median price. So we'll go 80% max, and what that means is if the median listing price is $100,000, by setting it at maximum 80%, it's only going to show me properties listed at $80,000 or less. Now, what you can also do is, if you're happy with the filters that you enter, and you just want to keep that so you don't have to come back in here and go through the process of updating and changing the filters each time, you can click on Save This Search, give it a name. You can activate weekly email alerts as well, or daily, monthly, every 3 days. Now, if you select weekly email alerts, the other filter that I recommend you use is listing age. So this allows you to say maximum 1 week, and that way then it will only bring up any listings that have hit the market in the last week. So that way you don't see anything that you've already eliminated as an opportunity, and you're only looking at new listings. Now, to access anything that you've saved, it's simply at the top of the screen here under My Saved Searches. And if you click on that, the menu will expand and you can see that I've got a fair few saved here. You can simply click on it next time you come in. It will run the search for you and just give you the results. You can edit it, the criteria if you need to, or you can delete it as well. Now on the left-hand side, we've got a watch list. So once you're looking at a listing, if it's something that you want to look at sometime later on, you can actually just click on the star here to yellow, and that adds it to the watch list. All right, so that's some of the tips and tricks for investor search. So if I run that as an example, we'll click search. It will now search through all those property portals, and based on that criteria, it's gone searched through 1.2 million listings, and it's come back with 34 matches. So we have a sort by feature here. So at the moment, I've got it defaulted to the newest listing to the oldest, but you can change that if you like to a number of different options. Now, as you scroll down, you can see here's a couple of new listings. There's the suburb that the property falls in. There's the listed price, so that's what that means, and the percentage of median how it sits. So in this particular case, it's sitting at 80%. Now, it's very specific as well. So this first one here is a 3-bedroom house. So a 3-bedroom house, the median listing price is provided in the table in the middle here. In this particular example, Mooney Ponds, the median listing price is $1 million. And so this one is asking $800,000. So you got a 20% gap there. The graph in the middle as well just gives you an idea on how the median listing price has changed over the last 5 years. Green just means it's increased from the previous period. Red means it's decreased. You can hover over the bar graph and get an idea of what that median listing price was for that year. Gray just indicates that the period in between each bar is a 3-month gap instead of a 1-year gap. So that's all that is. Now, when I talked about the default profile before, you'll notice that a couple of the listings have a snapshot. So this basically indicates to me that if I purchase this property at $800,000, my cash flow pre-tax in year one would be $14,938 negative. So that's what the red means in brackets, that it's actually a minus. So it's actually going to cost me to actually be able to cover the expenses and interest repayments for this property. So I'm going to have to find nearly $15,000 of cash out of my own pocket or from other properties that may be generating good income to cover the expenses before tax. So my potential gross yield is 2.9%, and my total return cash flow and capital growth is $51,393. So even though cash flow is not great, the potential capital growth return is going to be positive. So this is how our system knows how to calculate what the cash flow is, because you've already set your default expenses, interest repayments, all that information in the system. Now, obviously, you can change that. So that's where but after you've done some research, you want to analyze it in full, you can click on Analyze in Full, and it'll take you through to the Property Analyzer program, or part of the tool, where you can update all that information. So you can see here, there was no rent advertised. So based on the advertised price and all the data that we've got access to, we roughly work out that for a property asking $800,000, usually we'll rent about $440 a week for that type of property. Now, you may not purchase at $800,000, so you can change that. So once you put in updated a few of that information, you can click on Next. It will now give you a much more detailed analyzer report. So it will show me today year 1, 3, 5, and 10. You can click on Show All Years, and you'll be able to see exactly what the property will look like from a financial point of view if you purchased it. Now, this is where you can click on Edit at the top here, and you can go through now all the filters from the default profile and update them. So you can update your solicitor's costs, you can update the loan details, and perhaps your lender has decided to give you a better rate, or they've decided to waive the establishment fee and the valuation fees, so you can zero them out. Click into Rent and Expenses. So whatever you've got pre-defaulted in your default profile, you can update here. So this is where you can change things like your management fees, your rates, letting fees, all that sort of information. Click through to Tax and Market. So this is the CPI and the capital growth that I talked about. So in here, we do give you historical growth for the type of property that you're looking at in the suburb you're looking at. So in this particular case, it's actually a little bit higher than what I set in my default profile. So it's actually 8.3%. So I might change that then. Still being conservative, I'm just like that. I might say 6%. There's a depreciation calculator here as well. But if I hit Results, it will now update and give me that report. So just to give you an idea for those that have already tested this out and perhaps not too sure how to read this report, basically what this is showing you is that if you purchase this property today, it'll be worth $800,000. And based on a average of a 6% capital growth over the next 10 years, hopefully in 2027, it should be worth about $1.43 million. The amount of the loan, I've decided to do interest only. That's why that remains the same each year. Statistics, this is just working out how much equity you're building into the property or how much it's gaining each year, how your loan to value ratio is changing. And then also, more interestingly, what we include is what surplus equity you have to reinvest. So that's tied into this loan to value ratio target. So most banks require a 20% deposit, right? So based on an 80% LVR target, at what point can I tap into my surplus equity? Now, obviously, your lender is not going to let you borrow up to your whole equity of your property, only be a certain portion. So this is what this is saying is that in year 3, where my buying power is $380,000 and my surplus equity is $76,000, that's where I can potentially borrow up to $380,000. So maybe I want to buy a $300,000 unit, for example. Then that in year 3 is a good time for me to catch up with my broker or catch up with my bank to see if that's actually going to be possible. Obviously, in the first 2 years, you can see it's red negative, which means like I won't be able to tap into any equity at all. So I hope that makes sense. Rental income, so based on the $440 a week, you can see that in year 1 on an annual amount, what that equates to. Now, each year that increases, so that's using the inflation rate that I put in there. So it calculates your gross yield, net yield, with your cash deduction, so minus your property expenses, minus your interest repayments, you can see that your pre-tax cash flow in year 1 would be negative $14,893 or $286 per week. So this is where you can evaluate, all right, can I afford to acquire this property at this price? Now, depending on whether you're in that 0 group or the 4+ property group or wherever you are, obviously these numbers will mean different things to you because, you know, where you've got already a portfolio built up with a lot of cash flow, but perhaps you don't have much capital growth, this figure here you may be able to afford to cover given that the capital growth is significantly high. So that's where, obviously, if you've got no cash flow, no serviceability, this is not going to be possible. You probably need something that's going to be higher cash flow, but it's going to give you less capital growth. So these are all about the numbers. Hopefully this is going to help you keep the emotion out of your decision process and really allow you just to look at the numbers. You know, you don't want to buy that, you know, don't worry about that, the double sinks in the bathroom or that beautiful walk-in wardrobe. You're not going to be living in it. This is for investment purposes. You need to look at the numbers. Now, your non-cash deductions, so we've got a depreciation estimate built in from our partners at Washington Brown. It is really just a guesstimate. Then we've got your total deductions. Is it a net profit or loss? Your potential tax refund, and then what your after-tax cash flow per annum and per week is. So you can see here really is halved. So when it comes to tax time, especially if you're paying a lot of tax, there's the potential there to get some of that back. So you can save these, you can add it to save, you can access this a little bit later on. You can, change these figures, be a bit more conservative, a little bit more optimistic, see what they look like. Obviously with, interest rates being so low at the moment, there is really only going to be one direction it will go at some stage, and that's back up. So maybe put in an interest rate of 6%. Can you still cover the repayments and expenses at a higher interest rate? And this is really going to allow you to reduce your risk in running into financial trouble, in the years to come. All right, so that's Property Analyzer. So I've spent a little bit of time there. I'm just going to go back to the results. So the other thing that you can do here, guys, is if you find a property that you think has some potential, then you can click on See Full Property Details. That will actually expand and actually show you the actual ad itself. So you can click to the ad under the picture. There is the link there. Now, most of the links will be to Domain because we do partner with them. If it's not advertised on Domain, we'll actually then direct you to whatever website it is. So whether it's Gumtree or Ray White or whatever it might be. Now, you can also see that the keywords that are highlighted, in this case, it's potential and updated. So let's just say that, okay, well, there's a lot of potential there. Obviously, that context doesn't necessarily relate to renovations. So you can click on the left-hand side toolbar here. So a fair few people have missed this. Click on that, and then you can actually access all the filters from the original screen. Now, what I'm going to do is click on More Strategy Options, and I can actually untick all the keywords. And let's just say, look, I only want to focus on the words reno, renovate, renovation, the ones that are specific to renovation itself. We don't want to take any more we'll take all the generic words out. If we now hit update, the 34 results now become 12. So if we look at this first one here in Moonee Ponds, we can see here that the words renovation has been highlighted. So it's a large 3-bedroom block fronted home, offers an incredible opportunity for a renovation and or extension. So this is really going to save you time in finding these deals, because we can quickly look at those keywords, bring that onto your screen, overlay it with a lot of this data to see, okay, well, compared to what's happening in the market, does it initially look like a good investment? What we also give you is some other resource links, so you can quickly click on view on Google Maps if you just want to get an idea if it's close to good schools or infrastructure. You can then zoom out, have a look to see how it compares. This one here is not too far from the city itself. Looks like there's a uni nearby as well. If you want to find out more about the council, we've got the link there in the infrastructure website as well. So if you want to see what investment's what's happening potentially around that area that may drive prices up or down. Suburb stats, very, very important too, just to give you an indication on the demand in the area. We'd give you vacancy rate. Obviously, lower the number, the better. You generally want under 3%, and also average days on market. So over the last 12 months, on average, how long does it take a property to sell? Now, in this case here, all those stats don't just relate to 3-bedroom houses. It's across the whole suburb for all property types. What we also have down the bottom here are sales listings. So you can see that there are 136 properties currently in the market or on the market in Moonee Ponds. We give you a breakup in terms of the type of property, price bracket, and also an idea on the number of rentals that are currently available as well. So that's just an example of a renovation. Obviously, you can run a number of different strategies. I'm just going to click back to the Investor Search homepage. So if you're looking at, things like discount, so we pick up keywords like bank says sell, divorce sale, sick, ill health, mortgagee in possession. There's a lot of these different keywords that you could potentially utilize, where you can find a seller that's really motivated to sell because of time pressure, and you might be able to get yourself a good deal. For those that are looking at positive cash flow, we then pick up keywords like dual income, granny flat, student accommodation. So you can really potentially buy something, and from day one, it's just giving you good cash flow. Renovate, which I went through. Subdivisions, which is quite popular at the moment. Looking for a block big enough that you can split one block into 2 lots, so you can do that as a strategy. We've got strata titling as well, so you might be able to find a block of units on one title, strata those units, and then sell them off individually. So we've got a different number of strategies with specific keywords that relate to that. All right, so let's just go back to the results list, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up an address. So we'll just use this one as an example. So we can see here, this particular property, let's just say that this looks really good. So even if it's a property that you found, a real estate agent has forwarded you a property of interest that hasn't hit the market yet, as long as you have an address, you're going to be able to find out its full history and get a lot of information on that property. So let's just remember, this property is asking $800,000. It's a 3-bedroom house. So what I'm going to take you through now is my value and my research. This is essentially what real estate agents, the banks and valuers use. And this information was essentially limited to them a few years ago, but now it's more readily available to investors like yourself. Now, you've probably seen the ads from ANZ or NAB about getting your free property report. This is the same tool that they use. So you're going to be able to order these reports for any residential property across Australia. Okay, so once you log in, it'll just ask you to accept T's and C's. Now, just make sure that when you're in here, that if you are looking interstate, that you just on the left-hand side, just change the state accordingly. And this is the homepage for My Value, My Research. If you have an address, easiest way to search, use the address bar at the top here. Simply click in it. You can paste in the address, or just start typing in the address. Now, sometimes if the address doesn't match what's registered, the best advice I can give you is just hit backspace and delete some of the words. There we go. And it's found it. You'll default to property report and you click search. So within a matter of seconds now, you've got access to the property reports that agents and valuers in the banks have access to. So there's our property there, which we know because the pictures match. If we scroll down now, we have a market estimate of $1.2 million. So what that market estimate is an automatic desktop valuation estimate based on comparable sales that have occurred in the area. Now, what it's saying is that based on other three-bedroom houses that have sold, those numbers roughly using the algorithm that Pricefinder has got, that it should be around the 1.2 million mark. Now, remembering those properties could be renovated properties, and that's why that they're selling around the 1.2 million. This is only asking 800,000. So that is a limitation to desktop valuations, and no matter which ones you use, free sites or paid services, they're all going to be different. And even valuers, actual people that come out, you're going to get a different value every single time. So, personally, I've had my unit valued by 3 different people, and they all gave me 3 different valuations. So it is just a guide. Now, there is a confidence score here too. So do not use, essentially means that the data sample has been really small, and you shouldn't use that 1.2 million as a 100% guide. Now, you will sometimes get a high confidence, which means there's been a lot of recent sales, a good data sample. So it's going to say that it's going to be pretty accurate. Now, regardless of the confidence score, I always recommend that you do more advanced research, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes' time, on actually looking at the comparables yourself and really working out what is actually happening. Now, I want to get an idea of this property itself. So what I'm going to do is I can click on the photos. So this one needs renovation. So straight away, I can tell that if we just clean up the front, repaint the fence or replace the fence, cut some of that landscape, do that landscaping up a little bit, you're going to quickly increase that street appeal. Now you can see there's a property right next door as well that's looks like it's probably built around the same time. It looks a little bit cleaner, so it'll be interesting to see what that property may have sold for recently as well, if it has. So let's have a quick look at the property pictures. Just click through. So it looks like it's in good condition inside. There's no big holes or anything like that, but obviously it is dated. Okay, it must be just the living area. There is a floor plan. Let's keep going through. Bathroom, obviously, okay, it needs a lot of work. It's very, very run down. Backyard, plenty of opportunity there, obviously. Let's just see if there is a photo of the kitchen. There's a kitchen there. So definitely a lot of work is required, hence why probably the asking price. All right, so we've got an idea of what the property looks like. So what you can also do is on the map here, this little yellow box, you can actually click into it, and you've then accessed the interactive map. So quite quickly what you can do is you can actually zoom out and just get an idea on what's selling around the immediate area and at what price. So on the right hand side here we've got some map layers. Now you can actually turn on property shading by ticking that box, and by default it will show you in color properties that have sold in the last 3 years. Now there's a little key at the top here which you can see, dark blue last 36 months, light blue last 24 months, yellow is last 12 months. So you can actually click on any of these properties, whether there's a color or not, and then it'll actually show you the last sale price, the date, and the attributes of the property. Now, unfortunately in Victoria, due to privacy, you will not see the owner name information, hence why every property will say the proprietors. Now, what you want to do is now change it to sold price, and you get an idea on the value in the area and in the street. So for those that are looking at renovations, obviously if you can find the cheapest house in the best street or amongst expensive properties, that's going to be a really, really good opportunity. So you can see here that on this particular street of our target property, we've got yellow essentially, which means that it's in that between the 1 million to 1.5 million mark, according to the legend at the top there. But in the area itself, there's orange, which is close to the 2 million mark. There is a couple of dark blue there, which is 250 to 500. So obviously quite cheap. Now it looks like when I've clicked on it, there's 2 addresses there, so it may have been a subdivision there. So it's probably just sold one side off perhaps. So that's just a really good tool that I thought I'd just point out. Now for those that are looking at, say, subdividing, now what you can also do is when you zoom in, now I'm just going to pick any block, we have a measuring tool on the top right hand corner here. You can click on the ruler, and then you can actually draw by simply left clicking, and then if you want to change direction, you click again, and then you move whichever direction you want to go. So let's just say I want to subdivide this block in half. I can just click and change direction, double click to finish, and then it'll give you a rough idea on the measurements and whether it's going to be big enough for you to be able to subdivide, for example. All right, so just a good little tool that you can use before you have to, engage in surveys and stuff like that, just to see if roughly it's possible. All right, if you want to clear it, you just click on the rubbish bin, and if you want to go back to the photos, you can click on the little camera there, and it'll take you back. So the property report itself, let's scroll down. So we've got sales history, so we can see that this owner has owned it for nearly 40 years. They purchased it for $16,000 back in 1977. Keep scrolling down, we've got the listing history. So this is actually really important because you don't really, sometimes you don't, it's hard to see how long a property's been on the market for. So Christmas was a great example because I saw a lot of properties that were on the market since July last year. Then when it hit Christmas, the agent took the property off the market, obviously with buyers, not as many buyers in the market, and then they relisted it in January, and it looks like it's a new listing. So with this, you can actually see how long it's been on the market for, have they dropped the price, have they changed real estate agents. This will allow you to really understand how motivated a seller may be and whether you can further negotiate a discount. Rental history, so there's no rental data here, given that this owner's been there 30 years plus, it's obviously owner occupied. Keep scrolling down, we've got some basic property description data, very basic zoning, nearby planning and development applications. So for those looking at subdividing or developing, this is just a quick report just to show you what other applications have been lodged to council. So if you've seen there's other precedents, then it's obviously a good sign that you may be able to get yours pushed through as well. And then we've got some sales and growth information down the bottom here as well, just to give you an idea on how that suburb's tracking. Again, you can hover over the bars and see what the number of actual sales were and what the median price is. So that's your property report. Now, if I scroll back to the top, you can print these off. So you simply click on print page and export options, and we give you a few different PDF options that you can save. So it doesn't actually print it. It actually just saves it to your, or allows you to save it to your computer as a PDF. I generally recommend that you can print the My Value report because that will include the valuation estimate. But if not, then you can print any of the other options and it won't include that valuation estimate. All right, so now I talked about the advanced comparable sales where you can work out what the property is really worth earlier. So that's where you can actually then use one of the research tools on the left-hand side here called Sales for Suburb. So in here, you can now really control what you see and really identify like-for-like properties. So it defaults to the suburb that I'm in. I want to tick the box to show me photos. It defaults to the last 6 months. Now I'm going to change this to perhaps the last year worth of sales because I know that with the low confidence score, that means that there hasn't been much activity recently. So let's do that. House, click on more options, and this will allow you to then put in things like land size, number of bedrooms, bath, and car. Now this is a 3-bedroom house, so let's do 3 bedrooms. And I'll just keep it at that for now. I won't put in land size. Let's just see what comes back. So I'll hit search. And if I scroll down now, it should load up a map of the properties that have sold that match my criteria, and that's actually quite a fair few. Click on search summary. So I can see that 56 3-bedroom houses sold in the last 12 months with a price range of $200,000. That was on a 149 square meter block and $3.85 million. So you've got a price gap there, and you have a median of 1.1 million and an average of 1.16. So for this particular example that we're looking at for an $800,000 property, if you did end up paying the asking price, it's going to be the lowest price paid. Oh, sorry, no, it's not 200,000. So, but it's not comparable. So we need to look at the land size. Sorry. So let me just go back. So what's the land size on this? It's 248 square meters. So let me go back. Let's refine this further. So let's go more options. Land size will go 200 to, let's go 300, and let's hit search. And now if we scroll down and we click on search summary, so you can see now there's a lot less. We've taken out stuff that probably aren't comparable. We've got 12 between 200,000 to 1.6 million, but the median is still quite high at 942. So the asking price is going to be the lower than the median, but for some reason, we'll find out what that $200,000 property is, because if you scroll down further, you can actually see all the details for those 12 sales. So this will give you the eventual sale price. It will give you days to sell, so how long it's been on the market, first listed price, last listed price. Now, if it doesn't have that data, it could be a private sale, so it didn't actually go through a real estate agent as such, or didn't actually hit the market. So if we have a look, here's that $200,000 property here. If I open that up in a new tab, see if we can get any information on it. So it's just all about then having a look. So this is the property report like what we did before. It's just a matter of then going through and having a look and see if you can work out, okay, what this property looks like, why did it sell at that price? But essentially, this is where you can have a look at each of those properties, understand the lower end, what non-renovated properties are selling at, what renovated properties are selling at, what sort of quality, what sort of finish, and then you can work out where your target property fits in. Now you can see here days to sell. It's a quick moving market here. Most properties selling within a month. And then you can also look at like I said, the first listed price versus last and sale price. That's actually really good because depending on your strategy, if you're looking at renovating and selling or subdividing and selling a block off and you need an agent to sell for you, this is a really good way to see which real estate agents perform better. Because if you find that a particular real estate agent in an area discounts a lot before they can sell a property, that's probably an agent that you don't want acting for you to sell. You probably want to buy from them, but you don't want them to sell for you. But if you see an agent that sells at the asking price or has a track record of selling over asking price, that's definitely someone that you want to engage in. Now, if there's anything here that's not comparable, you'll notice there's little tick boxes on the left-hand side. So you can simply just untick anything. You can hit update results, and then that will remove any of those properties you've unticked. It will update your search summary as well. So it'll obviously make this much more accurate. And then you've got a nice report with actual comparables that meet your target property. Now, any of this information, you can sort by different views through here. But if you just want all that data in Excel, if you go to the top of the page, you can click on Print Page and Export Options, and you can simply click on Export to Excel. And depending on your browser, it'll open on the bottom left or top right-hand corner of the screen. And you then have access to all that information in Excel. So there's a lot of data actually in here that some of it is hidden from the actual online view. So it just allows you to really sort the information however you like. All right, so what else can we do? So it's a couple of extra tips that you can do if you're looking at rentals. So over here you can click on rentals for suburb. It will give you the same options of being able to refine your search, so you can then look for similar like-for-like properties. So that's a really, really good tool. You can see, essentially what your competition is if you're renting out a property. Suburb flyover. This just allows you to get an idea on how the suburb is tracking. Oh, it looks like it's just timed out. Let me go back. So you can click through there, or you can just like the property, just type it in at the top. And it will automatically change to suburb flyover because it knows it's not a specific address. And there we go. So you can see most suburbs will go back to 2004, 2002, depending on the number of how much data is available. You can see the number of sales. You can see the median price, growth, low and high values. Now in this particular case, it's by house. You can change the type of property. And you can also click into any year. And then you can add in more filters, just like I did before, because obviously that's showing you all houses. You can actually then narrow it down to 3-bedroom houses, for example. In the suburb flyover here as well, you've got demographic data. Now, this information is pulled from the 2011 census. So hopefully later this year, we're going to have access to the 2016 census data, and that will get updated through here as well. Now, again, like our other reports, if you want to print these off, just simply click on Print Page, and you've got a couple of PDF options that you can utilize. All right, so let me go back to the home screen. So you'll notice as you click through the different parts of My Research, you have this little navigation trail. So if you want to just go back, instead of using the back button, you can just simply click on the first one. It'll take you back to that home screen here. So just a couple of things I just want to touch on. You've got 4 tabs here. Really, property search just allows you to find a property. Like I said, though, if you've got the full address, just simply type into that address bar. It leads you to the same place. But if you don't have an address in Victoria, allows you to search by a lot plan, volume, folio, or building name. Each state is slightly different. Market activity. So market activity is all the reports that I was running before once I was in the property report, the sales by suburb. This just allows you to bypass the property report. So if you just want to find out all the sales by a suburb, postcode, or a local government area, you can do that from here. We have ownership. This just basically searches for all properties in a given area. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for sale or has sold. It's just what exists. A for sale report to just be able to see what is currently for sale and also for rent. Statistics, so the suburb flyover, which I went through, we do have a region comparison, which is really cool. So you can enter in up to 5 different regions or suburbs. Excuse me. And then again, indicate the property type, indicate the date range. I'll just do 5 years so it's a little bit faster. Hit search, and then it will give you the median price or the equivalent to a suburb flyover for those suburbs that you've entered or regions that you've entered into the region comparison section. All right, so while we wait for that to load, don't forget, if you have any questions, guys, we are coming close to the Q&A session. Just feel free to type that into the question section on that control panel there, and I'll plenty of time, and I'll go through all your questions there. Okay, so it's loaded. So if I scroll down, then you see some of the graphs just for those 2 particular suburbs I've selected. But if we go right to the bottom, we can see the median price for the last 5 years as well as the number of sales. All right, let's go back to the home screen here. And then we have phone search as well. So again, depending on availability of data and the area, this may not be obviously be available for all areas, but you can potentially find a phone number for a particular property. All right, so before we wrap up, in property search, there is another way that you can search, which is really cool. If you scroll down, we actually have a map search. So you can navigate around by just moving your cursor, or you can put in an address up here or a suburb, and it will center on it. But what I want to show you is that if you don't want to search by a suburb in general or a property, and let's just say you want to find properties around a train line. Now unfortunately there's no facility for you to be able to do a radius search around a train line. You can do it by a postcode. But let's just say you've identified that you want to be within a certain distance of a train line or a train station. What you can do then is use the polygon search. And so this is the tool up the top here with the shaded box. You can actually draw, just like the interactive map that I had before, you can actually draw the area that you're interested in, maybe walking distance, double click, and then you can order a sales report. What has sold in that area, or what is for sale, listings report, or an ownership report, or a rentals report. So you simply just hit search, and the next couple of pages are exactly the same as what we've been doing. It just gives you the opportunity to put in the filters that you're interested in. So the map searching is really, really cool. The other thing is not the polygon, but we have a line. Let's just say that you want to be on a particular street. You can click on the line, and then you can actually draw, double click to finish, and it will then pick up any properties that hit that line. So you might just need to sort of go off the street there and across some properties. So I would probably zoom in a little bit there and run that line. So any properties that touch that line, you'll be able to then run a report, and it will show you those properties. All right, so that's essentially some of the training that I wanted to show you guys today. So for those that are just starting out, hopefully that's helped. There's obviously a lot more that is available, but that is essentially the core, really using investor search to find a property. There's some key data in there already on the suburb and the type of property that you're looking at. You can then take that property address across to MyVay, My Research, do the numbers, get more information, and then if it really looks good, you can then put those numbers into Property Analyzer and really, really crunch the numbers. Now, one other thing I just want to show you as well, if you're not too sure where to start at all, we have some suburb performance reports. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, under the resource section in the footer of our website, we have suburb performance reports. And we update these on the 1st of every single month. You can then have a look to see which suburbs are performing the best at that particular point in time. So we've got mining towns, waterfront, affordability and growth, movers and faders, yield and affordability. Each pack has about 8 to 10 reports. But if we come into here and say, all right, if you're looking at cash flow, for example, what are the top 200 highest yielding suburbs at the moment? And so you can come into here and you can then have a look to see what type of property in that suburb is performing the best at the moment. So you can see there's a median price, what the current median rent is, and what that yield is. Now, obviously, those suburbs that are in the top 10 or even the top 50, they may be, it might be too late. You may have already missed the boat. But if you know that that area is quite attractive and it may now be becoming too expensive, have a look at the surrounding suburbs. So you may have heard of the ripple effect. You know, as interest and demand in an area increases, it becomes more expensive because of the lower supply. People still want to be close by. They'll look at the suburbs next door. So that could be an opportunity to get in cheaply in a potentially growing area. So that's your suburb reports. And also, we've just recently updated our billing system. So if you haven't had a chance to update your credit card details, if you don't mind, all you need to do is just click into My Account on the top of the page, and you can actually update your own details there. You also have access to invoices and receipts that you can print off at any time. So we've made it a little bit more convenient. You don't have to now email us to get copies of invoices or statements, especially when it comes to tax time. All right, guys, so I'm just going to switch back to my PowerPoint just to wrap up. So just bear with me for 1 second. All right. So don't forget, if you've got any feedback at all, if there's anything else that you want to see, please let me know. Now, we do provide a lot of online help and support. So once you've logged in, we do have a knowledge base available to you. That's the actual link to it. But once you've logged in, you can actually just click on it. It's just slightly below the tools that I was clicking on before. You have access to live training webinars such as this. All the recordings are uploaded. We run these on a fortnightly basis, generally at 8 o'clock at night. Now, if you find these times are inconvenient, just send me an email or send us an email and let us know what time you prefer. Obviously, the more feedback that we get, happy to tailor this and change the time if required. Video tutorials, we've got videos on each of the tools itself just to give you an idea on what it can do and what it can provide to you. We also have strategy-based videos, so if you're looking at, say, strata titling or you're looking at developing, you can actually watch a video on that in the context of that, so you can see how you can use the tools to find those types of properties and how to research those. Now, we have a blog. We upload a lot of our recorded webinars to as well, not just training webinars, but the recent one that we've done on landlord insurance with Terry Shear. We've done depreciation webinars. We've done renovations, subdivisions, dual income. You can actually access all that for free under our blog. And there's a lot of articles and infographics and case studies available there as well. Now, if you need a little bit more help and you're finding that you're not having any luck utilizing the tools to find the property that you need, don't forget we do offer a premium membership. So it is for the hands-off investor. If you don't have the time, for example, we can actually provide a 6-step strategic approach where we can help you if you're a first-time investor or if you're just an existing investor, actually find properties for you where we go through those 6 steps. We'll prepare a property acquisition plan, do all the research for you, present the properties to you, go through why we picked them for you, pros and cons, and we'll continue to do that until you're happy with the property that we've presented to you based on your buying criteria. So if you are interested in that offer, you can register for a free consultation, no obligation. Now, I will just actually type that into the chat so you can actually click on it, because you won't be able to click on the screen there. And I can get one of the guys to just give you a call and organize for a free consultation if you like. So I'll just type that in now. Okay. All right, so thank you very much, guys. We've still got a fair number of people who have stuck around, so thank you very much. I'm now going to open up our questions and go through that with everyone. Now, don't forget, we've got some social media as well that we update quite regularly, so stay in touch with us. If you use Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter, feel free to go to those links and add us, and there's a good way of keeping in touch with some of what's happening in the property market. Okay, so we've got a question here from Tung. Tung, thank you for your question. Hi Dennis, how do I search for comparative sales? Example I have is targeting a specific house with 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage on a land size of 800 square meters in a particular street. How do I find recently sold prices of similar properties within, say, 1 kilometer radius? So Tung, hopefully you saw when I was in My Value, My Research, that's how you can search for comparative sales. So once you've gone to, you can actually type in the street. So if you use the market activity tab, which I talked about towards the end there, put in that street, put in your criteria of 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car houses on 800 square meter blocks, and then you'll get all the comparative sales. So just put a time frame in, or whether it's 6 months or 12 months. Now you're asking if you can see sold prices within 1 kilometer. Now that won't allow you to search by a radius, but if once you're in a property report tongue, you can actually click on sales by radial search. So then you can put in 1 kilometer and then put in that criteria as well. So that's all under My Value or My Research. Tung's just asked, so how do I use Investor Search to find the answer to that? So you don't, Tung. You'll have to use My Value or My Research. Okay. Gary's just asked, is there an Apple App Store app for this program? So not currently, Gary. Now we do have a real estate investor partner app. Now that's unfortunately not available to you guys. It's only available to our affiliate partners. So to our buyers agents, mortgage brokers, and accountants who utilize our partner program. But I am involved, will be involved in developing the product further, enhancing it, and looking at apps is going to be one of those things I'll be looking at, Gary. So at the moment, if you're using your iPad or iPhone, just open up your internet browser for that device, access it through the browser, and our website will actually change accordingly to that device. Karen has just thanks Dennis. I'm seasoned at using the tools, but it's always great to get a refresher. I always learn something new whenever I do a webinar. Well, that's great, Karen. Thanks for that feedback. So hopefully there's other members out there as well. But like I said, if there's any feedback at all, guys, if there's anything else that you want to see, or perhaps that you might feel that you'll get a lot more advantage of, or you want me to focus on a particular tool or strategy, let me know. I'll definitely be happy to focus on that in a fortnight's time, because I really want to make sure that these training webinars, you're getting the most out of it. You're taking advantage of your membership, getting value, and ultimately being able to buy good investment property and be successful. I think that's it, guys.